Good morning, everyone, and I am definitely not a morning person, but welcome to 2021. Today is obviously not the first day of 2021, neither is it Chincha's first video of 2021, but it's my first video of 2021, so I'm really excited to be here. We have our new office, the new studio. I think the new set looks great. Pains me to say, but Zach, I think, has done a really good job, and the rest of the team, of course. But yeah, today is also the day that the Redmi 9T is being launched. And the good news is that we have the official pricing for the Malaysian market as well. But you know, you're gonna have to watch the entire video to find out, because obviously I'm not gonna tell you right away, right? So let's first get the most obvious big elephant out of the room. Yes, the Redmi 9T is more or less a rebatch of the Poco M3, which I have one here. So this is one of the most value for money phones you can get in the budget segment in Malaysia right now. I think it starts at 599 ringgit. So yeah, but there are a couple of differences. So yeah, but before we get into any of that details, let's talk about, or let's get to the part that you actually came here for, I'm sure, and let's unbox the Redmi 9T. Alright, so let's open this thing up. This is the Redmi 9T. I think this is the orange one, sunrise orange. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the headlining spec that they have right on the front of the box. This is a 6,000 mAh battery, which is pretty damn huge if you ask me, and that's a good thing. Okay, pretty much standard. Let's open this up. It's okay lah, you know, I'm sure the box is well designed. Okay, normal stuff. There is a SIM tray, not SIM tray, sorry, SIM ejector tool, manuals. Who needs manuals, right? But hey, later help me pick up. Then we have a jelly case, just a simple clear. Okay, let's put this aside. Wow, that's a big camera hole. The Redmi 9T. Ooh, the orangey color. Can you see it well? Maybe you can have a look at the Redmi 9T specs. It's a 48 megapixel quad camera setup, 6,000 mAh battery, Snapdragon 662, and a 6.53-inch Full HD Plus display, and dual speakers. So let's take this thing off. So I don't know if you can see it very well here, and it looks really nice. Have a look. So the new style of Redmi phones is obviously that there is a huge Redmi word, but I kind of like it. It feels like it's almost been like engraved in it. Oh, I don't think it's actually engraved because this is quite clearly plastic. You can see that there is kind of like an engraved Redmi word here, and it's quite different from the Poco M3 in terms of the feel, because Poco M3 has kind of like that faux fake leather or whatever, right? So this is this is a little bit more standard feeling, but it's a nice textured finish, and it has this little effect that when you move it around, I think the light shines off it in different angles. So that's okay lah, you know. It depends if you want people to see you very clearly. This is the phone for you. Let's put the phone aside for a while. Let's see what else is in the box. So much cardboard waste. Yeah, okay, so this is the charging brick that they provide. Yeah, so this is a 22.5 watt charger. The strange thing is that this may be a 22.5 watt charger, but the phone only supports up to 18 watts fast charging. So keep that in mind lah. But you know, maybe they had some extra chargers lying around, or maybe not, I don't know, but I'm not really complaining. I think it's okay. So okay, it's a USB A to C cable, and that's all that's in the box. Oh yeah, so yes, you do get a charging brick in the box. Of course lah, at this price, I don't think they're not going to give you a charging brick. That's only for iPhone. And also the Mi 11, I think, but yeah. Okay, so let's turn it on and see what comes. Alright, so this is based on MIUI 12. I think another difference that you have to expect from a Redmi phone is that it's not going to have Poco Launcher. I think you can download it separately, but that's probably the only difference software-wise with the Poco M3. Alright, so let's just set up the phone first. It's pretty straightforward. This is MIUI 12. Okay, so while we wait for the apps to load on the phone, let's take a look at what's on the outside first. So as I said, it's a nice orange textured finish. Obviously the biggest difference between this and the Poco M3 is that there isn't this gigantic camera bump, you know. Maybe I can show this to you for some comparison. So, I mean, it's a matter of taste. I think I thought that I would like the M3's kind of like, it looks a little bit more fierce, I think. But at the end of the day, I think I prefer the more conventional look of the Redmi 9T. So because this is not an AMOLED display, generally speaking, you don't have an in-display fingerprint scanner. So if you look here, there is a side-mounted fingerprint scanner here, a standard volume rocker, right? So as I said, there is a speaker at the bottom. On top, there is this grill. I think these are microphone grills, but look, it's a headphone jack. Yeah, I think that's really good. I think if you're paying something like a budget price for a budget phone, you're not gonna want to spend money on like separate TWS earbuds or like bringing around an adapter with you. So this is good, this is nice. And yeah, it looks like the apps have loaded up. Do a quick audio test while we have the phone because I want to see how the stereo speakers sound.
Samsung's Galaxy S20 FE 5G was a very interesting smartphone for me. For the price, I was deeply unimpressed with the regular Galaxy S20 line in Malaysia because of the subpar performance from the Exynos 990 processor, as well as the measly 128 gigs of internal storage. On the other hand, the S20 FE came with, a lot of what makes the S20 line really good.
Nothing surprising, the audio is pretty okay. It sounds a little bit tinny, but there's enough volume, which I think is more or less what you really need with phone speakers. But they sound okay lah. They are stereo speakers, but it's the cheaper stereo speakers. Basically, one of the stereo speakers comes from the earpiece, so it's very, very imbalanced. This is a very, very soft speaker compared to the bottom firing one. There is also like 3 holes here, which I initially mistaken as like the up-firing speaker, the second speaker, but no, the second speaker is just in the earpiece. So this might be like one of the extra microphones. I'm not really sure about that for now, but yeah, audio is okay, just so-so. So there are a couple of slight differences between the Redmi 9T and the Poco M3. Let's start with the cameras. The Redmi 9T has a 48 megapixel main camera, twin 2 megapixel shooters for depth sensing and macro shots. But this time the Redmi 9T has an 8 megapixel ultra wide shooter, which is not available on the Poco M3. So to me, an ultra wide shooter is something that is really, really nice to have on a phone, especially in 2021. I'm still readjusting, but so there is an extra camera on the Redmi 9T. That's the first big difference between this and the Poco M3. The second one is that this is a phone with 6 gigs of RAM. So the Poco M3 that's available in Malaysia comes with only 4 gigs of RAM for both variants, whereas the Redmi 9T has a 6GB RAM variant. But besides that, you're looking at a near identical setup on the Redmi 9T. So let's quickly run through some of the specs. So the Redmi 9T has a 6.53-inch Full HD Plus display, and they're calling this a dot drop display, if you have a look here. But whatever they're calling it, this is basically the same old teardrop or dewdrop display that we've seen on quite a lot of phones in the past. So within this dot drop, there is an 8 megapixel selfie shooter sitting there. So yeah, that's pretty standard. So it's also powered by the Snapdragon 662 under the hood. As you can already tell from earlier in the video, it feels quite sluggish to me. Maybe this is something to be expected, but it felt pretty sluggish to set up. So maybe it'll get better over time. But for now, it feels like a rather slow phone. So do keep that in mind. But at the same time, it's also worth noting that there are 2 storage variants, and the smaller variant, the 64 gig version, comes with UFS 2.1 storage, whereas the 128 gig version comes with UFS 2.2 storage. So you might just get the larger variant even if you don't need the storage, because it's faster, and I think it's a significant difference. Moving on, the biggest, and I mean this quite literally, the biggest benefit, or one of the biggest benefits of this phone is the huge 6,000 mAh battery. So, I haven't actually been able to use this phone for more than a couple of hours, so I don't really know if battery life will be that amazing, but I think it should be pretty good. I mean, it's a 6,000 mAh battery, so this is definitely one that should last you more than a day at least. So, like many other phones in the budget segment, the Redmi 9T also comes with a couple of older technologies, but technologies that I'm still happy to see on a phone in 2021. So this is like the IR blaster, so that you can go to your mama and start changing the channel, and I don't do that because that's an uncle thing to do, but honestly my dad used to do it. I felt so embarrassed. But you have an IR blaster, you know, there's FM radio as well if you ever wanted to listen to that. I think that's about it, but it's still pretty cool that you have these older technologies available. And of course, as I said earlier, there is a 3.5mm headphone jack as well. So all in all, this is basically the Poco M3 with some minor upgrades, most notably the 8MP ultra wide shooter. Besides that, obviously you don't have that gigantic, the gigantic camera bump, which I find to be a little bit gaudy on the Poco M3. It's a different kind of finish as well. I prefer this as well. So I guess the big question ultimately to me is this a better budget phone than the Poco M3? The answer to that is I would say yes, because it's practically the same phone but with a better camera setup and more RAM. So I think the answer is pretty black and white to me. Or black and orange, but black and white to me. The Redmi 9T will be available in Malaysia in two configurations, one with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, and a range-topping variant with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. So pricing is identical to the M3 in Malaysia, with the 4+64 variant priced at 599 ringgit and the 6+128 version going for 699 ringgit. So it's identical, but you get more RAM for the top range model, and of course, as we mentioned, you get UFS 2.2 storage for the top range model. The colors are pretty different from the Poco as well, obviously, and the Redmi 9T is available in carbon grey, twilight blue, sunrise orange, and ocean green. So at the moment, because we're shooting this video a little bit before the actual launch of the device, we don't have an exact date for when sales will begin, but we're told that you should expect it to begin sometime during mid-January 2021. So what do you think? I mean, I'm not really sure how Xiaomi, Poco, Redmi, whatever, all these independent brands, I don't know how they're going to organize their sales strategy, because to me it's so similar and it's priced identically to the Poco M3. So I don't know, maybe they're going to discontinue one of the models, but even that doesn't make sense because the Poco M3 was just launched pretty recently. So to me, between the options, I think the Redmi 9T is probably the better option between the Poco M3. But then again, the Poco M3 does usually go on sale for maybe 100 ringgit or something like that during some of the online sales festivals, so maybe you can keep your eye out on that. But this does have 6GB of RAM, so I think this is the better choice. And of course, the ultra-wide shooter. So yes, the Redmi 9T for me is one of the most value for money affordable phones you can get right now, and definitely it's a better option than the Poco M3 to me. But you know, you can disagree with me and let me know in the comment section below. Of course, we'd love to hear from you. And yeah. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. Of course, do stay tuned to searchengine.com for all of our latest coverage, and we'll be updating the stories as it goes along and give you more information on the Redmi 9T, as well as possible discounts for the Poco M3 like we were talking about earlier. As always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell icon so that you do not miss any future videos like this. But for now, this is Nick signing off. Bye!